What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ring the Bell show, and we are here to preview the NLCS, the National League Championship Series that kicks off in about 24 hours from right now. As we are streaming this live, the Astros and Astros and Angels, that would never happen in the ALCS.
No.
The Astros and the Rangers are going to be throwing the first pitch for Game 1, and this is just insane that we're at this point right now. It's crazy to believe, for me to believe also, that the Phillies are facing the Arizona Diamondbacks and not the LA Dodgers. But again, the way history has been over the last couple of years, it's not surprising at all that the LA Dodgers aren't in the NLCS here. But look, it's what the Arizona Diamondbacks have been doing is kind of reminiscent of what the Phillies did last season. We just hope that the Phillies are just that same team, just significantly better. Jay, I know you just literally hopped on right before we went live. We're 24 hours from this thing, man. We thought Citizens Bank Park was loud during the NLDS. Man, what are your early expectations of the feeling that we will probably see inside Citizens Bank Park for games 1 and 2 here?
Oh, I think well, I don't know what more I can say than all these, what the players have said. Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Between, Casty, talking about how much different it is with Harper, with Trey, all these guys talking about how great it is. And even opposing teams mentioning what the atmosphere is like in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I expect it to be, a bunch of the same from last season and this season. Just the crowd going wild and feeding that team and the team feeding off of that. And really, we've seen Bryce just do magical things these last 2 seasons. And so I expect, him and the rest of this team to really feed off of that crowd.
Absolutely agree. So like I said, maybe the Phillies versus Diamondbacks isn't the NLCS that, you had on your rankings or on your predictions way back in March when the season began. Because look, realistically, if you go back and you look at all those predictions and, you saw the Dodgers a ton, the Braves, the Mets and the Padres were teams that everybody thought, not everybody, obviously, were teams that we all thought were going to be in this position right now. But this is who we have. It's the Philadelphia Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Look, it's not hard. It's not hard to get excited for this because these are two teams that just play the style of baseball that we all love. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they're not a very good pitching baseball club. And we're going to get into that because like we did with the NLDS, we're going to break this whole thing down position by position and then give our final predictions at the end. Jay, as an early look upon the Arizona Diamondbacks is what we were going to be doing now up until game 1 for the rest of however long this series lasts. This Diamondbacks team's scary. They really are. They might not pitch well, but the Diamondbacks are definitely a team as we welcome in Dean here. Diamondbacks are definitely a team that they're not to be looked down upon.
No, I 100% agree. Go back to our wild card series. I had said, when we were talking about who to play, I totally thought this Diamondback team was a much more formidable team than the Miami Marlins. They're just a better team. I know the standing probably didn't show it, but they have a lot of good young talent. Corbin Carroll, whatever his name is. He's really good. They have that first baseman that just mashes. Gallon's a guy. So they have a lot of young talent. This team kind of is like, I would say more the 07 Phillies instead of the last year Phillies. They're a very young team. They get in. I just don't expect them to beat up. Like, they're just not as good of a team, I don't think, overall. But they do have a lot of talent that, if Nola doesn't show up and, Wheeler has an off game, they can put up some runs and they can definitely beat us in a 7-game series.
That's a good point. Dean, we talked about right before you hopped on how we are, all of us, based on the last few years, we've seen what the Dodgers have done in the regular season and weren't able to do in the postseason. But, going into this postseason, we kind of assumed that if we can get by the Braves, that we were most likely probably going to face the Dodgers. That didn't happen. But you being also a guy that follows the Dodgers, I know Jason does as well, because you guys one of you are a fan of the team. Jason is a huge fan of Clayton Kershaw. If you look between the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, I'm going to be honest to both of you. I much rather probably would have wanted to face the Dodgers than the Diamondbacks, because when you look at the Diamondbacks, they're just a team that's almost they're playing with house money right now. And that's a dangerous team to play. Dean J, do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you rather have seen the Dodgers over the Diamondbacks, or this is, take whoever, we got to beat someone to get there?
Actually, I would have had rather play the Dodgers because their pitching, it was just decimated through injuries. And, of course, Urias getting suspended and stuff like that. So they're putting out Lance Lynn. Like, come on. So they they would have been an offensive juggernaut, but I think it would have been just like the Braves. You would have had Kershaw, maybe would have showed up in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like he's so like just hot and cold in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it would have been a lot like the Braves. You would have had to just deal with one pitcher and then a patchwork job the rest of the way. But you would have had to worry about their offense, though. You know what I mean? So
for sure,
I would have much rather played the Braves. I do think we're going to beat the Diamondbacks, though. I don't think they have much of a starting pitching after Gallen.
Yeah.
See, I would have said the Dodgers because I picked them to beat the Phillies in the NLCS. So, I can know my prediction can no longer be true, which I'm happy about. It means Philly's going to win it all. But no, the Dodgers just have so much talent offensively. Yes, we did just shut down Atlanta and their historic offense, but the other guy that was in the running for that MVP and Mookie Betts is still over there. The reigning NL MVP in Freeman over. Yeah. So it's like they got a lot of guys still. They have a deep team. They got a lot of guys. In terms of expectation, this is a scarier matchup because you don't know. The Dodgers, you would have assumed it's going to be like one of those, again, heavyweight fights. Yeah. You're not sure because, like you said, they're young. So maybe, they're naive enough to not understand the moment and just play loose. So that's what I think makes Arizona such a dangerous team.
Yeah.
I agree. And kind of what you were saying before, Jay, is, you got Christian Walker, who had 33 home runs, 100 RBIs. He hit 258 this year. Ketel Marte, their second baseman, he was just really good. 25 home runs, 82 RBIs. But again, then after that, Gurriel Jr.'s on that team, 24 and 82. Just a bunch of pesky hitters, man. That's really I mean, Corbin Carroll, obviously, we all know what he did as a rookie. Just an unbelievable stud. 30 doubles, 10 triples, 25 homers, 76 RBIs, and then let's add on there's 54 stolen bases. So they have some pretty good players over there. And it's but again, let's not forget and gloss over, like you guys also said, they can't pitch that well. This is a team that made it to the playoffs winning 84 games.
Their top two starters are like, let's give Gallen and Kelly some credit.
Oh, Gallen.
Yeah, for sure.
Gallen is an absolute dog. Like, he's a number one on most teams. Kelly had himself a very good year. So to me, I don't see if Nola doesn't show up, their staff,
we have a problem.
We may be a little deeper with the third, but I just don't, because the Phillies, Sanchez and Walker haven't pitched in 2 weeks. They're probably going to go game 4. I don't think the difference there is as big as people want to, as big as Philly fans want to think.
Yeah,
you're probably right. I mean, listen, it's all about our bats.
Yes.
You should be able to outslug anybody.
I agree.
I mean, we just beat the shit out of the Braves in realistically in 4 games. We should have won game 2. So
agreed.
It wasn't even a contest. It's true. I'm not trying to say
no. I just
won game 2. You know what I mean?
Like you have a scarecrow behind you or something. That was all. I saw a body.
Brandon Pfaadt is their game 3 starter.
That's
he had a near 6 ERA during the regular season. It's going to be tough. I have a feeling this is the kind of series where you're gonna, if you're going to see Zach Gallen probably again for Game 4, right? I mean,
I think they bump him up, kind of like those old school. You go 1, 4, and 7 if you're Arizona.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agrui
I think the first 2 games of this series are going to dictate the series. I think if we take them both at home, that's it. That's. I mean, I'm not worried about it then. If they take one from us, it could go any way then.
I agree. All right, so let's break this down. Let's get to it. On one side, you have the defending NL champion Philadelphia Phillies. This is trying to think. So we were all alive for 93, but we weren't, cognizant of how popular that team was. And then we lived.
You were a Mariners fan, so
okay. So, and then you look at, and then you go through 07 through 11, which was an insanely likable team.
Yeah.
I think this year's Philadelphia Phillies might be one of the most likable Philadelphia sports teams in the history of the city. It's a team that's been playing at a 100-win pace since June. And then you go to the other side, like we said, this is the underdog team. This is like the normal role of the Phillies, especially from last season. These are the newcomers here, a team that didn't even clinch the 6th and final playoff spot until the final week of the season. But, they not only destroyed the Dodgers, I mean, they embarrassed the I mean, they're probably the cause of that franchise that's going to be doing a lot of house changes in the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
The D-backs, they're young, they're fast.
Whoa. We ain't got to talk to them about them like that, bro.
I'm sorry, but we'll get there.
The Diamondbacks, okay? We're not calling them D-bags over here.
I said D-backs.
Yeah, I know what you said, buddy. We all heard you.
I only say the other thing is if you're in the conversation and we're speaking about you. And then you look, one of these clubs are going to represent the National League in the World Series. And look, we all kind of probably know, those who are listening or watching, where this is going, because all of us have said that whoever wins the Braves-Phillies series is most likely going to win the World Series. And we said that often. So let's start with what we did before. Let's start with the catcher. We get started with a position that, just like the Braves and Phillies series, is shockingly close. JT was, again, over the last half decade, was clearly the best catcher in the world. He's still a terrific catcher. He's shown he's been pretty good in the postseason so far. But again, it's worth noting that, he had a 106 OPS plus this year, which has been his weakest since 2015. He took a bit of a step back defensively as well. But Gabriel Moreno, who he's even better than JT this year at throwing out base stealers, let's not also discount what he's done the second half in terms of hitting. He's a .313 hitter since the All-Star break, a .383 on-base percentage, and he's got 3 home runs so far in the postseason. Obviously Moreno is nowhere, near the star or the statue JT is, not yet, but, as long as, he's not too banged up, because he did get hurt in Game 3 against the Dodgers, he might have a larger impact on this series. I want to give the advantage, Jay, to the Diamondbacks here, but, and we say this all the time, if JT gets minimally hot, can deliver some really clutch plays. He hasn't necessarily shown that yet, but it's there, and you got to look at the playoff. He's got, obviously he's someone that's battle tested in the postseason, dating back to last season. Who do you give the edge to here?
I just experience. I'm gonna go JT. He's been there. He's done it. We all kind of said the same thing, like you said last series. But I'm not going to read it. But I felt like JT definitely outplayed Murphy, and like Denard had the big moment. But in Game 2, I think it was, but it's just JT showed up when it needed. He had some good hits, had big hits. I just give the nod to JT because of the experience here.
And again, we're going to go to Dean here, who's been critical of JT all season, even parts of last season. Dean, are you hopeful that JT turns that dial up here in the NLCS? Because it would be very welcomed, obviously. Or do you give the advantage, watching what the Dodgers couldn't do with Marino? Do you give the advantage to the Diamondbacks here?
I'm going to give us the advantage.
Okay.
I still think, JT had a big home run against the Braves. He's still, great defensive catcher, and he can turn it on at any second. When he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
But he's getting out too much for me. But I'm still going to give us a slight advantage. He's been here before last year. He still calls a great game. So I'm going to give it to us.
Yeah, game 1 against Atlanta, he was 0 for 2 with an RBI. That was the that infamous catcher's interference. Game 2, he went 2 for 5 with that run, that big home run, 2 RBIs there. Game 3, 1 for 3 with a double with 2 RBIs and a walk, and then went 0 for 4 in game 4 against the Braves. So look, he's against the Braves, he came up big at points. So let's hope that he does it again. I still because of what Marino has done since the All-Star break. I really can't deny a 313 batting average and getting on base at nearly a 400 clip. And if he's healthy, he's someone that the Phillies definitely need to pay attention to. Let's now go to first base, which is something that Jason was talking about for a while here. I almost went with the Diamondbacks, and I was doing my research and looking at how good Christian Walker has been. He's the best defensive first baseman by a mile in Major League Baseball this year.
I feel like you're just doing this to do it.
No. So he's quietly been hitting a ton of home runs for the past 2 years. He has 69 home runs in the last 2 years, which is third most in baseball, especially from a primary first baseman behind only Matt Olson and Pete Alonso. So it's
how many
not
home runs?
Like,
oh, you mean first baseman? Okay.
Yes.
I was saying,
what was the home run number though?
Let's say Kyle Schwarber has like 92 home runs in the last 2 years.
Yeah. And from a first baseman, he's got 5 RBIs already in the postseason. Walker is extremely good. The only problem is that the Philadelphia Phillies have a future Hall of Famer named Bryce Harper, who is, he's got a 146 OPS plus right now. He has a longer track record of regular season, postseason success. I mean, for heaven's sake, he is Bryce Harper, and the guy's hitting 462 since the game 1 of the against the Braves series. He's got like almost an 1800 OPS. Bryce is just, again, doing exactly what he did last year, probably at an even more dominant clip right now. But look, it's going to the Phillies. Christian Walker, he's a very good home run hitter, very good defensively, but in terms of a game changer, you got to go. The Phillies have the advantage here with Bryce at first. Dean, do you disagree? No?
No, I'm going to pick Bryce.
Okay. I don't know what Jason's doing. He's doing what he's been doing lately.
We all know it's
silent.
Do we have to is this one even like you I could have, I should give it to this guy, but no, it's attaboy. It's the guy who came in that game and just bombed home runs. It's the dude who carried us last season. It's the dude who we didn't win earlier in the season when he was injured. He is the most valuable player on this team, and he's shown it time and time again. It's not even close.
Yeah, I agree. Second base, this was the toughest one that I had. We can't make these decisions based on postseason play to date because it doesn't work that way. In most cases, I mean, with guys like Bryce and JT, you kind of have to go back and look at that. It is hard to ignore that Ketel Marte, he has 2 home runs and 985 OPS this month on top of a 128 OPS plus in the regular season. He's very up and down. instead of being that constant or consistent. Ketel Marte's always been a guy that's he's like a Reese Hoskins. Like when he's hot, he can carry a whole team, but when he's not, he just doesn't. He's not that good, clearly. Bryson Stott, on the other hand, he has a clear advantage defensively. Again, we talked about this in the NLDS. He's an elite second baseman. He's a plus 16 outs above average, which is, I think one of the tops in baseball. While Marte is a -1, so he's average. If the D-backs are going to do anything in this series, guys like Ketel Marte have to play a significant role. But with how good the Phillies pitching is, I can see them being able to stifle a guy like Marte more than others. So I think overall, guys, I got to go Bryson Stott here. Again, I think that's the toughest position battle in this whole thing. But I got to go Bryson Stott. You guys agree, Jay?
Yeah, it is very close. You really kind of, to me, especially in playoffs, you want defense counts a little more. Because you saw the Trey Turner thing, we all talked about that, but there's in the playoffs, especially the NLCS, you can't have those errors. So I do think, and Stotty has come up very clutch. He's a very, he gets his small hits. He doesn't have the power of Ketel, but if he just, he does his job well. So to me, I think it's a slight edge, Stotter.
All right, Dean, same with you.
Stop.
Okay.
Not by much. Not by much, because Ketel's a very good, very, very good player, but Stott's incredible defensively.
And he gives you what he gives you on the base path as well. I think that, to me, kind of, I'm okay with less home runs. The average is there. What he gives me on the base paths and defensively, that's definitely why he gives them that.
So let's go over to shortstop. I think this is a kind of one of those why even discuss it type things. But look, what Trey Turner is doing right now is, since August, the dude is unhinged. That's the best word I can come up with Trey Turner right now. In that Braves series, 4 for 4 with a double, home run, RBI, 2 for 4, 2 runs, home run, RBI. The guy was just spectacular, and he is just on an absolute heater right now. So that's, I can't really say anything else. Geraldo Perdomo made the All-Star team. He hit a big home run against the Dodgers, but it's also, that he didn't have he had a decent first half. He had a 787 OPS, and then he completely collapsed in the second half of the season with a 619 OPS. While it's the exact opposite for Turner, 687 in the first half and a 902 in the second half, and he's right now has a 1455 OPS in the postseason. It's just unbelievable what Trey Turner has done. We all know that the majority of defensive shortstops in baseball have a better glove than Turner. I'm completely ruling that out, because what Turner does offensively, he's 34 for 34 in stolen bases this year, including the playoffs, and he's just really just tearing the cover off the ball. I think this is a no-doubter, guys. Trey Turner, right?
Yeah, kid's incredibly hot right now.
He
12 hits this postseason. Come on. And what he's going to give you on the base path, I think it's another one of the things. It's, Palm, he started everything, and Trey's shown us over his career. This is why we brought Trey in. So to me, it's 100% Trey.
Yeah, I'm sure you're on that boat as well, Dean.
Yeah, don't even waste your time asking me.
Third base. And by the way, this is where you can plug in that whole that famous GIF from Jumanji of what year is it? Evan Longoria is the third baseman, right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was on that Rays team that the Phillies beat back in 2008.
Rookie.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yes. Well, he's not Arizona's primary third baseman this year. Emmanuel Rivera, and since traded, Josh Rojas, each saw more time than he did, but he's started every postseason game so far. Alec Boehm, who, wasn't, didn't dominate offensively during the regular season, but had a very good offensive season. He's been very, very piss poor in the postseason. Right now, Alec Boehm is carrying a 606 OPS. He's doing better than Evan Longoria. It's hilarious that they actually rate similarly in defensively at third base, because Boehm's negative overall rating is mostly about his time at first base as opposed to what he's been able to improve on at third base. So that's a washout to me. I think this is a no doubter because look, I'm not going to put Evan Longoria over Alec Boehm right now. I'm just not going to do it. No disrespect to Evan Longoria, but the fact that he's even in this spot shows that the Diamondbacks have a clear organizational issue at the hot corner. So,
isn't Longoria a massive steroid user?
I don't think so.
Or who was in Milwaukee? Ryan Braun.
Ryan Braun. They're two different.
Yeah. Yeah,
one's an outfielder, one plays their base.
How dare you, Dean?
One played in Florida.
Hey, guess what? It doesn't matter.
I actually thought that was going to go signigaently.
I did too. Else. I was shocked. I was like live at perfect time. I thought it was.
That would have been really bad. Go ahead.
You have to tell me when we're off air.
Okay.
I can't put Boehm. Like Boehm has played terrible.
He
had so many opportunities. Definitely, Dean. He needs to he has to have a big series. Like if you're going to keep him in that 4-hole, I think it's more of you give it to Boehm by default just because we did over the season. But right now he is really struggling. I think he needs to have him. I said you before this series, the two, my two guys that need to break out. I'm sure it has to be Boehm and Schwarber have to play big this series.
Yeah,
for us to keep going.
Yeah, in that Braves series, man, Boehm was 2 for 13 with two hits, only one ribby.
Lots of guys left on base.
I don't even remember his hit because I thought he went over.
I know he grounded into 3 double plays in that series, so that's rough. I understand he is. I understand that. I understand that he's been that 4-hole guy. Look, we all know Topper rarely makes changes to that lineup, Jay. But in the NLCS, do you think Casty goes back up to that 4 spot?
I said 100%. I said do it. No, leave this dude where he's at. This dude is mashing. I'm 100%. It's different. Hey, he didn't do well. We moved him down, and he's killing it. Or maybe it's kid. Maybe his kid's back and he wants to perform for his kid. But no, to me, I like the way you spread it out. So even though in the beginning it did stink, I don't think Boehm is going to be as bad. And I'd love to see that second, the second round of that lineup, you got Casty hitting hard, getting deeper in that lineup. So now you're not front loading everything.
Yeah. I agree. Going over to left field now, again, even if this was based on regular season, you still go with the Phillies, I would guess here. Because who they had playing left field for the majority of the season, only from an offensive standpoint. But however, even if you go into the postseason here, the combination of Christian Pache and Brandon Marsh, I still grade that above Lourdes Gurriel Jr.'s, being in left field for Arizona. He had a solid season, but it just doesn't match up to the options that the Phillies have. The Phillies have 2 legitimate, really good left field options in Marsh and Pache. Marsh is graded as an outstanding outfielder. He didn't show that a lot in center field this year, but when he's played the corner, he's looked significantly more comfortable, looks better. He also it's crazy to say this, man, but Brandon Marsh was a 292 hitter this season and a 387 on-base percentage against right-handed pitchers this year. That's incredible. It's a very, very, significant, stark difference to what he does against lefties. But again, you're going to probably see Marsh more than you'll see Pache in the NLCS. But look, Jay, I think it's, again, clear cut. I mean, the advantage goes to the Phillies here with that combination.
I agree. I think, just the defensive. I know Gurriel's is a more power bat than what we'd have. But I think just what they give you defensively and what they can give you offensively, like
Yeah.
you said, the splits for both of them. I'm sure we'll see a platoon here.
Yeah.
What they can do defensively, I think, in that outfield far outweighs, that offense. Because I think our pitching comes in and shuts down again. I think they look very well.
I agree. How about you, Dean?
I guess I would agree with that. I mean, I like his numbers. I like Gurriel's numbers offensively, but I think our rotation out there has been pretty good.
Yeah. I'm with you. All right, so let's go to center field. Look, I'm just gonna be honest. If this was strictly based off of offensive output, I mean, it would be far and away advantage to the Diamondbacks, without a doubt. And it is possible that us as Phillies fans, based on what we saw in August and in September, are probably putting a little bit too much pressure on Johan Rojas. I mean, the dude literally went from Double-A right to the starting center field job in July 15th. He hit reasonably well in his time in the regular season with that 111 OPS plus, and that's just considerably better than Alek Thomas, who had a 75 OPS plus in each of his last two seasons. The counterpoint here to me is kind of obvious. Rojas has a singular single in the postseason so far. Yeah.
It's
however,
bad.
Yeah, I mean, they are disgustingly ugly at bats. But I mean, if you want to watch a major league player get just overmatched with a bat in his hand, you watch Rojas. But again, you're talking probably top 3 best defensive center fielders in baseball right now is Johan Rojas. I mean, he saved the game for the Phillies off of Ronnie Acuna Jr. In the 8th inning of that Game 4 against the Braves with a great catch in center field. You look at Alek Thomas. He had 2 home runs against the Dodgers. It's like everyone had at least a home run against the Dodgers. Yet, as excellent of a center fielder as Rojas is, that bat of Alek Thomas could. I mean, again, I'm not worried about the Phillies defensively at all. I'm worried about what Rojas can or cannot deliver offensively here because, look, the Diamondbacks showed that they can pile up some runs. So, I'm worried about Rojas a little bit in that 9 spot. To me, it's close. But, Thomas has a longer track record of not hitting much at all either. And Rojas being such an elite defender kind of tips the scales for me towards the Phillies here. So I have to just go Rojas. And I know that might sound homerish because, look, the dude, again, we just said it. I mean, he as Richie Ashburn used to say, there's nothing hitterish about Johan Rojas right now. But I'm a big defensive guy, and I agree that defensive ability of Rojas, who has the ability to save games more than be a liability to lose one in that 9-hole spot, as a big deal to me in the postseason, as it's already proven to be. We just said Rojas has provided negatively offensively for the Phillies, yet he saved maybe their season with that huge catch in center field in Game 4. So I'm going to have to give the advantage here to the Phillies. Jay, Dean, am I kind of too homerish on that one?
No,
I agree. As I've been saying all game, I am really big on defense. And Rojas, he had a good regular season. I know the postseason's different. You have pitching, but I don't think this Arizona team starters are as good as Strider in them. So I do see his bat waking up a little bit, but I agree. Yeah, when you have that center field, left field combination, it just studs. I think that impacts the game much more when you can just run down fly balls and you really don't have to worry much about stuff hitting that hitting that grass when it's hit out his way. So and he covers a lot of ground. So I give the advantage to Rojas as well.
Yeah, I'm obviously with you there, and like Dean said, he feels the same way. Now let's go over to right field. This is the hardest one, I think, right, guys? I mean, you have Nick Castellanos, and then you have you have Carroll on the other side. I mean, it's really tough to grade this one because, and I'm only saying that because of what Nick Castellanos is doing right now. I mean, he's his bat. It's like a video game. It's like if like NBA Jam, like sometimes a basketball would be on fire. I know where I'm dating myself here, but if there was like an MLB Jam, like Nick Castellanos right now would be playing with his bat on fire, and it's crazy because
it's called MLB Slugfest, bro. That's what it was.
Oh, I remember that. You're right. That's right.
Slugfest.
Wasn't Pujols on the cover of that game?
Yeah, I think he was on one of them. Yeah,
he was on one of them. Okay. Yeah. But Corbin Carroll, dude, like, he's a great player. I mean, he's a stud, an absolute stud. He out hit Castellanos this year with that 134 OPS plus to Cassie's 112. The base running and defensive gaps are massive, obviously. Even in the playoffs, Carroll's hitting 412 right now with a 565 on base percentage. That's insanity. But let's kind of go over, to Cassie here. He's the first player right now to have back-to-back postseason games with multiple home runs, which, helps wash away the fact that he generally, hadn't done much with the bat in October as a Philly. He hit 198 in October, across 21 postseason games overall with Philly up until this Atlanta series. So we can't forget that. But again, in baseball, especially in the postseason, when you're hot, who cares what you did the previous game or the previous season? It's all about what you're doing right this second, because that can carry you to a World Series. So guys, you got Corbin Carroll, who's probably going to win the Rookie of the Year, obviously here. But you got Nick Castellanos. Both of these dudes are swinging just smoking hot bats. Who do you give the edge to here?
I would go Corbin. I just think
me too.
I get
especially what he can do on the base path.
Yeah, what he can give you, and he's just a vet. Like I know we're really ecstatic about Nick, and we know what he's done. And but to me, I just give the edge here to Corbin. And it's more because I get it. Nick is our guy, but Corbin's just a little bit better, and he's and he's a better defender as well. So I think the home runs, I don't know are going to be there, but Corbin has two. He's got some stolen bases, like you said. He's batting over 400. Yeah, to me, the advantage goes to Corbin here.
Dean,
I'm going Nick Castellanos.
My man,
I think he's dialed in right now.
That's where I was going there. I was thinking to myself, boy, is he seeing everything so perfectly right now. If there's anyone that's remotely hotter than Bryce Harper in the postseason right now, I mean, other than Yordan Alvarez, I mean, you're looking at Nick Castellanos. It's just insane right now. But yeah, that's a tough one. But I'm gonna give that one a wash based on how I have to, because both of them are hit. If I'm gonna give any edge, it's gonna be to Carroll strictly because he had 55 stolen bases.
And I think what he gives you there, and he still hit 25 home runs.
Yes.
So he had to get more home runs than Nick and the RBIs, but Corbin, and he has 54 still. Like, to me, that's where his advantage comes in, the defense and that base path. That's kind of where, we kind of went Stoddard. To me, that's where that comes into play, is he can, and with the way JT has not looked as, you mentioned it, not as great defensively. I know he did throw someone out in, I forget who he threw out in the divisional series, but if they can get that base path going, that's something that's going to hurt us.
For sure. I agree. So let's go to DH, and this one's tough because I'm trying to grade it off of what I expect, what my expectations are for the NLCS, but I can't part of me feels like I can't grade it that way. I mean, I can. It's my show, but nonetheless, let's go through it. It's a tremendous advantage for the Phillies to have a DH available because then we can completely just ignore the fact that Kyle Schwarber played left field at all. He hasn't played the field at all in October. He's not going to at all. He's a bat only dude, but that bat has gone incredibly silent this postseason so far. And then you look at a guy like on the other side in Tommy Pham. Pham was a guy that the Phillies were heavily rumored to be interested in at the trade deadline. And you look at what Pham has done. You look at the Dodger series, game 1, he went 4 for 5, a home run and a ribby with 3 runs there. Game 2, 2 for 5 with a run. Then he went 0 for 4 in the final game against the Dodgers, but he had 6 hits in that series compared to Schwarber, who had 2 hits total in the entire Brave series to go along with his 5 strikeouts. So, look, overall, you look at what Schwarber can bring to you. 47 home runs, over 100 RBIs, can walk a lot. He had the 122 OPS plus during the regular season. Pham is a more complete player. So obviously if you include his defense, but that really doesn't matter. But, who do you go to in I guess right now, Jay, the advantage goes to Pham because he's actually hitting the ball? Or do you grade this on at any moment, and I know we criticize the guy, obviously, and it's deserved many times, but at any moment, if that bat remotely comes alive for Schwarber, you're almost unbeatable. So how do you grade this?
Yeah, exactly what you just said. To me, that was my thought. Like, I do give the edge to Pham just because the way he's been playing recently.
Yeah.
But you can't, if you're going to say who's a game changer, which one of these can change has more, like, it's going to be Schwarber, because I said it after that series. I think when I said it earlier, I think he has to be alive this series. We can't have him coming up striking like, and I get with Trey playing hot with Bright, after him, it's nice to have him off the base paths because it gives Trey that room to run. But you need Schwarber to get hot and hit a few out this series. If we're going to go back to the World Series and win it this year, Schwarber's he's got to get hot. And what better time than now? But yeah, I think advantage Pham, but Schwarber's going to he can change the game much more than
for sure.
Pham would.
Yeah, I agree. Dean?
I agree. Schwarber's not seeing the ball good right now.
Yeah.
But I think once he hits that home run, that first home run, if he hits one, obviously.
Yes.
I think for a guy like him, it's going to open the floodgates, especially because he's historically a really good postseason hitter.
Yeah. I agree.
Regardless of his issues in the regular season can be, in the postseason, he usually just destroys other teams, pipes them down, as they would say.
Yeah, I mean, kind of looking at what he did in the NLCS last season, he hit 400 with a 571 on base percentage in the NLCS last year. So he's definitely somebody that if they get hot, it's looking really good. Here's a comment here. It's so difficult to take a guy like Schwarber out of the lineup because he has the ability to change the game in one swing. Yeah, Ryan, you're absolutely right.
Wow.
And that's thank you to Ryan. Ryan is doing God's work, coaching and bringing up the future of baseball. So huge shout out to him. He works tirelessly and is an incredible mind for the game of baseball. But when you're right, and that's what I kind of said is I have to grade this as if what Schwarber can do at any given moment for this team. And with that one swing, which is what Topper has talked about since day one, putting him there is, man, he gets a hold of the baseball and he hits that ball 400 feet. It changes the entire trajectory of the rest of that game almost. Because if he's hitting, how the hell do you pitch to the next 3 or 4 hitters? It's
you say that.
Right.
Let's just remember 0.196 and over 200 strikeouts.
I understand.
So
It's a
I agree. You know, like Ryan said, it's tough. You can't
it's
take
a
him out.
double-edged sword. It's a complete double-edged sword.
Hater.
It is. I am a hater. I just want him to go back to move him at
Yeah.
4 with the way Turner. But no, yeah,
Okay.
keep him there.
Listen,
But he
it's not
has
going to
to
happen
be.
this year.
He has to be. You know, one of these games we need to get up early. We need to get that leadoff home run. It's so
I
dynamic.
agree.
If he catches some of these, and I was shocked at Strider when I asked him every time. Strider was like, that's what tells me he's just in a slump because Strider was giving him them fastballs that normally Schwarber eats up.
Yeah.
And he was missing them. He wasn't found. He was just missing them. So you just know he's not seeing the ball right now. Not like Dean said, it only takes one home run for him to wake up. And so you never know. So that's that thing where I agree with you, but it is tough to put Schwarber there.
All right, so let's go to starting pitching, which is probably going to be the difference maker in this series. If you look at Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, you know, they're not as famous names as Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. But if you do a deep dive like nerds like I do, and you go into the weeds of numbers across the entire season, they have, you know, two of these guys. I mean, all four. I mean, Gallen, Kelly, Wheeler, Nola, they have almost identical numbers over this past season. The Arizona 2 and the Philly 2, 387 innings pitched to 385. Both teams had a 26% K rate. The OPSs here are 668 for the Diamondbacks, 674 OPS for the Phillies, and then a FIP of 353 and the Phillies 359. There's not a lot of daylight there. It's true, you know, Nola in particular allowed many more runs, especially home runs, than the other guys. You know, and you look at the poor defense also behind Nola and Wheeler, which you got to take into account for as well. If you look at the end of the season, Nola has pitched like the Nola from 2018, where he's really dominant. He hits his corners anywhere that Real Muto puts that glove. Nola's going to get it there. Still, when there's not a whole lot here to separate the top two pitchers of each team's here. So in a best of 7, it's not just about the top two pitchers. So that's where the Phillies gain the edge, in my opinion. Ranger Suarez continues to be a red light big game pitcher for the Phillies. In the postseason, in 7 career games, Ranger carries a 1.16 ERA. And you look at the Diamondbacks, Brandon Pfaadt, he did manage to pitch well in his only start against the Dodgers. He was hit really hard against the Brewers. He had a 5.72 ERA in the season, like I said. You know, if the teams do need to get to a 4th starter, which I don't think is going to happen, the Phillies could go to Taijuan Walker. They could do a mix of Walker and Sanchez because Sanchez is a lefty, Walker is a righty. And that would be a bullpen game. While the Arizona Diamondbacks, they do not have a 4th starting pitcher. So that's where we're at. So I in my opinion, yes, the top 2, I don't think the top 2 are a wash because I still think the way Aaron Nola is pitching, to me, that puts him ahead. That puts him ahead of Merrill Kelly right now, in my opinion.
Especially the last game. Like I texted you guys, Nola, you could see it. He was just like, he was feeling it. Every pitch was like almost perfect, you know. The spin on his breaking pitches was just incredible.
Yeah. That's where I'm at with the starting pitching. Jay, do you hearing all that and knowing that the Phillies, if needs to get to a 3rd or a 4th guy, I mean, the Phillies have clear options at that point where the Diamondbacks have none. That's why we said when it gets to a game 4, I mean, Gallen is most likely on that schedule of 147. So that automatically, in my opinion, tells me that the Phillies have the pitching advantage.
I agree. And to me, it's Ranger. We said it before the year. It was something, you know, as soon as they announced, you know, in the playoffs when Ranger was going to be that game 3 guy, I called you right away. It was something we talked about. While it's something that we wanted to see, you didn't expect it with T1 signing that massive contract. But I think Ranger gives them the clear-cut advantage because you see what he can do You know, he really came out. You know, he's not going to give you 7. He could give you 4 or 5 and really shut it down. And kind of like you said, get that bullpens look great. You know, really shutting down. But I think Wheeler and Nola have both looked great, and Ranger still since last season has come in and shut it down. So I think the Ranger it puts them over the top definitely for starting pitching wise.
And Dean, you probably feel that same way too, like you just said, especially with what Nola's been doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's
yep.
I was gonna say you made my point for me. I was gonna say that we have the advantage because of Ranger. He's just incredible in the playoffs.
He really is. He's like becoming just such a like a cult icon in this city for what he's been able to do. And then going over to the bullpen, and I grabbed these numbers from MLB.com today. If fastball velocity means anything, and of course it does, then of the final 8 teams in the postseason, of the final, when you got to all 8 teams in the postseason, the Phillies had the best 4-seam sinker velocity in all of October at 97.2 miles per hour. The Diamondbacks had the least at 93.7. So, you know, Philadelphia's bullpen has the 4th best strikeout rate in the game at 28.7%, while Arizona had the 18th at 22.3. So look, and we've said this before during the season, if you're an outsider coming into the series, you would think that the Phillies bullpen is absolutely without any issues, without any scary situations. But again, when you live every single day with this team and you watch every game, you watch every inning like we do, the eye test makes you have heart palpitations when you watch this Phillies bullpen. I mean, we saw it in the last game against the Braves here, where you felt like at any given moment, the Braves were going to open this game up and just come out of nowhere.
Especially when we were walking players.
Especially when Gregory Soto is in there walking dudes. And then, of course, Kimbrel as well. But ultimately, you know, from a D-backs point of view, the bullpen is going to come down to 2 things. Kevin Ginkel, who had been a relatively not anything in the bullpen in the previous 4 seasons with the Diamondbacks, he continues like the high-end pitching that he's been doing since that June demotion to AAA. Since coming back, you know, he's got a 2.13 ERA in 36 games. And has whiffed 8 of the 17 batters he's faced in the postseason. And then you got the lefties. You have Joe Mantiply, and they get the rookie Andrew Saalfrank to hopefully, they would think, if they get to them, to go after Harper, Schwarber, Bryson Stott. And obviously at that point, depending on who started the game, you know, Pache would probably hit for Marsh in that spot. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, Kevin Ginkel and Joe Mantiply and Andrew Saalfrank will neutralize the Phillies. So I got to sit here and I got to give the high octane, you know, the high octane Phillies bullpen the advantage. And I got to go with the starting pitching advantage goes to the Phillies. And I think the bullpen advantage also goes to the Phillies. Jason, Dean, you guys on me on that one?
Yes.
I'm nervous.
Oh,
what you saw last game, and they have pitched a lot of Rangers games. You brought them out. You saw them a lot. You saw like you hope they're not as close because Arizona did come out. And while we've watched Philly all year, so we understand Arizona's bullpen did come out and shut out the Diamondbacks. They had some guys that neutralized that team, and the Diamondbacks are very formidable offense as well. So I think it's a little bit. I think it's closer. But just you see guys like Kimbrel and Soto really scare me. You know, you saw. You know, I like the way. And I've heard it before. They talk about it how Topper brought the back end guys out early to shut them down, and then you kind of have to patchwork it. Where as if your big guys continue to pitch well, if Kimbrel looks like he's looked most of this postseason, and Sir Anthony kind of keeps being himself. Kirkring looked good. I think it's a slight advantage, but I think it's really close. They have They have some guys too. It really depends on how hot Philly's offense gets.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Dean?
No, I agree. I do give us the slight edge, but our guys can implode at any second, though. That does scare me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the walks were scaring me. Like I was like, oh, I was sitting on my bed and I was just like, oh man, they were gonna lose this game because they can't get a strike. And you know what it is?
That's where it was.
It annoys the hell out of me because we have a back end rotation that has a lot of power pitchers, and they're trying to throw some soft ass breaking pitches to these guys, and they're walking them.
Yeah.
It's like so. It's like, yo, just throw 100 miles out there in the plate. They're probably not going to hit it. I mean, let's be honest. So,
Give him the heater.
like, I understand you. I mean, that's what cost us. That's what cost us with Hoffman. Dude was firing pitches down the plate, and he's like, "Well, I'm just gonna throw this breaking pitch," and then blows the game for us. You know what I mean? So, no, I want to see fireballs down that plate. You know,
I agree.
What I want.
And what destroyed me, and I was yelling this, whatever voice I had left during Game 4, the clincher against Atlanta, and I was yelling this at the game. And I'm thinking, man, I even as a baseball player and playing defense, I hate walks from a defensive pitching standpoint. I hate it. I'd rather you beat the hell out of me by hitting the baseball than giving away base runners, just giving it to them. And I hate it. I hate walks. Like when you have a reliever, your job is to come in and just throw strikes, get them to hit ground balls, get them to hit pop-ups. Stop overthinking this. Gregory Soto does it. Kimbrel does it all the time. Kimbrel, you know what you do well, and you just throw fastballs in the strike zone. You got
417 saves. Stop dicking around.
Yeah, I agree. Just go in there, throw strikes. Look, the defense might not be great for behind you, but it's better than just putting a dude on first base or after that. So because guess what? Then you got to count on the defense to hopefully you throw a ground ball. Now you got to hope this possible, not so great defense. It's going to turn double play, which we've seen this year. It can happen, or they're going to boot it. So stop walking, dudes. Just stop doing it, please. All right, so here we go. This is the biggest, the last couple parts of this show. Everybody go to SeatGeek.com right now. Use our code ONTHEBUMP for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. I want to thank multiple people have been using our code over the last couple days or so. So thank you guys so much for all the SeatGeek love. I'm sure they love it as well. Head over to routine.com right now for your fashion wear for baseball players. It's baseball apparel from a fashion standpoint. As in it's not branded, anything like that. It's just high-end quality baseball apparel. Head over to routine.com. Use our code Ring the Bell at checkout. You get 10% off your order. They have a brand new fall line coming out. I've been wearing and supporting Routine Baseball for over 10 years now. So definitely head over there and keep an eye out on what they got coming down the line. All right, so let's get to it. Jason, the Diamondbacks win if.
I'm going to go again. I think Nola's the guy. If they can get to Nola and take him out and really hit, because I think Nola needs to come out. I think they win game 1 with Wheeler. If Nola doesn't look like the guy he's been, I think the Diamondbacks have a good shot to win this series.
Mm-hmm. Dean, the Diamondbacks win if what?
Oh, I'm man. It's tough because I don't really see them winning.
So it's like making something up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if our bats go cold, which they can do at times. I mean, we saw it in the World Series last year. I think the pitching will be there. So if this team comes out cold, especially if they drop one in Philly, and then they go to Arizona and they're struggling, then the Diamondbacks are going to take the series pretty easily, I think.
So for me, I feel, I feel the Diamondbacks win. If out of all of a sudden, this Diamondbacks offense continues what they did against the Dodgers, and they find a way to tag Wheeler and or Nola. While I believe in a Ranger in Game 3 or a mixture of Christopher Sanchez and Taijuan in Game 4, depending on the series, I mean, you still could see Zach Wheeler in Game 4. I hope it doesn't get to that point. But yeah, I think the Diamondbacks win if their offense continues to just stay as hot as they are, and they keep finding ways to score runs and just put up a lot of hits in that box score. And just completely like Jason said, that all of a sudden the bats just completely go cold as well. I know Dean said the same thing also, but I don't foresee that happening. But nonetheless, let's move on. All right, Dean, the Phillies win if
I think it's a pitching stays consistent. With them, it's all about pitching. Sorry, I'm trying to scoop my chair up.
Sorry.
If Wheeler gets dead arm like he did in the World Series Game 1, Nola reverts back to July Nola, and he's giving up 5 runs. It's gonna be a quick series. But if they come out and pitch like they've pitched this whole postseason so far, and relatively for the last month of the season, I don't see Arizona hitting them. They have been lights out this playoff so far.
Yep, I agree. All right, how about you, Jay? The Phillies win if
their bullpen stays the same. I think that is going to be a huge factor. Their bullpen really came in and shut most of these games down. I think they need to show up because I still believe. I believe in Wheeler. I believe in Nola. I believe in Ranger. So I think they gotta. And with the amount the bullpen's going to have to play, I wonder if they try to stretch Ranger out a little bit more, because you're going to have Sanchez and Walker pitching on they haven't pitched in a while, so you're not sure. So that bullpen needs to stay stepping up, because I believe in the starters. I think the offense will put up enough runs, but I think in closer games they need to show up. So that bullpen has to show up again.
So that was going to be one of my main ones. So I'll go in my other way, because I don't want to completely just be like, oh, cool, I agree. Let's go to predictions. I think the Phillies win if I trust that their bats are going to score 4 to 5 runs a game. So I'm going to go with starting pitching. I think if their starting pitching can go 6 innings at least with each of their starts, and that's Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger. I feel like if all 3 of them guys can go at least 6 innings in their starts, I think I don't see how the Diamondbacks can contend or compete with that. So I trust the bats. I think the Phillies, from top to bottom overall, are such a superior baseball team. But as we know from watching baseball, it's the most beautiful sport on earth. You just never know what's going to happen. We see it all the time. So that's where I'm really worried. But, you look at what Zach Gallen, who's going to start Game 1. He faced the Phillies one time in 2023. He went 5 2/3. He gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs.
Was that the name of the game against Nola?
Yes.
I was about, because I remember that's the game with the Chickies and Pete's and watching Nola get blown up.
Yep.
It was a good game.
And then Merrill Kelly, in his one start against the Phillies, he had went 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned. He had 4 walks that game. So again, these are the first 2 pitchers the Phillies were able to get to during the regular season. So we'll have to see what happens again come beginning Monday night at Citizens Bank Park. Here we go. The most important part of the show, and that's the predictions. Dean, who wins and in how many games?
Phillies in 5.
Okay.
Who's your NLCS MVP?
There you go. Yeah.
Bryce Harper. I think
I would love that so much.
So dangerous.
He's so
it's either gonna be him or Nick, but I think it's gonna be Bryce, because he's just
I wish
on another. He's like
he is.
we said. Nick was on another plane.
Yeah,
Bryce is on another plane right now. He's
yeah.
determined to win this World Series coming up.
I agree. And I wish I could tell you guys how many text messages I've gotten in the last 48 hours from Jason just saying just texting the name Bryce
Same.
and then to follow that up with, I can't believe he's a Philly.
He chose us. It's still crazy to think that
I know.
with how great, like, because I even before, like, we hated, like, well,
Of
as a
course.
player, we hated, like, we appreciated the game, but
Of course.
it's insane, and especially watching what he's done, like, because just before when we started the podcast, I think there was parts where we were like, maybe we have to trade away Bryce, and now he's like, there's no shot.
Yeah, no. He's more determined than ever to almost single-handedly, if he has to, win a World Series on this team. So Jay, who wins how many games and who's your NLCS MVP?
I got the Phillies in 6. I think it does come back to Philly. And I'm gonna go Bohm. I think he stays in the 4 spot. I think that Arizona is not going to let Bryce beat them. I just don't see Arizona giving Bryce a lot to hit. You saw a guy like Strider, not intentionally, but intentionally pitch around Bryce. So in those moments they're not. We saw it last year against San Diego. We saw Bryce. They're just not going to let it. So that's why I don't see Bryce doing it. If they keep Bohm in that 4, whoever's the 4-hole hitter is going to be the MVP of this season.
Wow.
Or whoever's behind Bryce.
Right. So my prediction is, if we've learned anything from the postseason, it's do not count any team out. It doesn't matter what they did in the regular season. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You look at Arizona and they're like that team that should never have even been in the playoffs in the first place. The fact is, we had the same situation last year. We were an 87-win team that got in there on the first year of a third wild card, went all the way to the World Series. So I'm not gonna degrade anything that the Diamondbacks have done. This is a team that's taken down 2 of the NL's 3 division winners to get to this point.
What's great too, though, I want to know, is it like they're combined 30 games behind their division winners? It's insane.
So it's the most in baseball history.
That's okay. I was going to wonder that.
It is the most.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I think their records of their total wins between the 2 teams are also the lowest, I think, ever in NLCS history, which is wild. And then you got, they got some stars. They have Carroll, they have Christian Walker, they have 2 really good starting pitchers that we just talked about. However, the Phillies have absolutely everything going in the right direction at the right time. Every single cylinder is firing the right way right now. And this is the only time in any sport that you'll hear me personally say this. The Phillies have legitimate home field advantage when they play baseball in the postseason. And that's why I just feel like for the second straight year, the Philadelphia Phillies will represent the National League in the World Series. I have the Phillies winning this series in 5 games. My NLCS MVP, I mean, come on, who does everyone think I was going to choose? It's going to be Bryce. I think. If again, we're on a national level here for now the NLCS. We don't have Braves announcers covering this game that I know of. I don't think they will. I think Bryce once again continues to put Philadelphia on a national map in terms of, you want a team to pay attention to, you want a team to hitch your wagon to, it's us. And Bryce and guys like Castellanos are continuing showing other superstars around the league that might be wondering about where they want to play baseball in the next couple of years. I mean, you watch baseball in the postseason so far. Is there any other team or city that you really would want to play for? Just saying. So Dean has the Phillies winning in 5, and his NLCS MVP will be Bryce Harper. Jason has the Phillies winning in 6, with his NLCS MVP being Alec Bohm. I think you should probably bet that. I mean, I don't know how much you gamble.
Great odds on that.
I would put a few dollars down on that. I had the Phillies winning this series in 5 with Bryce Harper being the NLCS MVP. And that's it, everyone. Monday night, it begins 8:07 at Citizens Bank Park. We will be here post game. I don't know who's going to be here. I know, God willing, I'll be here. Whether win or lose, you're going to have a post game show here on Ring the Bell, as you will with every game from here on out, wherever that goes. Follow us anywhere at Ring the Bell 856, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Our YouTube channel is at Ring the Bell 856, or just type in the Ring the Bell Phillies podcast. It'll take you right to us. Smash that like button if you guys are watching on YouTube. And of course, subscribe. It's a big deal for us. If you're listening on podcasts, let me just say our podcast numbers right now in terms of downloads are off the charts. Like, it's stunning me, honestly. There's a little bit of a lag in like August, like July and August, where like I told Jay, like, do I even post the podcast anymore? And he's like, just keep doing it, keep sticking with it. Well, thank God he did, because I mean our podcast numbers are like through the roof in terms of downloads. So let's continue that trend. And then obviously find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts will be no more at the end of the year. But until then, follow us there and anywhere else you guys listen to podcasts. All right. For Dean Holzapple and Jason Kent, I'm Christy Francesco, and we'll catch you guys here tomorrow night. And as always, go Phils. Ring that bell, baby.